Greetings, my friends. This is Dr. Jimmy. Are you ready for this? This is now, on this day, Easter Sunday, April 1st, 2018. This is a second video I have made for you this morning. You may have just seen the video that I had posted, All Secrets of Halloween Horror Nights 28 Revealed, which was my 8th annual April Fool's video for you, all in one single video, not 5 of them, and it was a rather silly scenario, a whole silly, complete bullshit story about Disney buying Universal and turning the event into a G-rated, family-friendly affair with no alcohol and no hard ticket and silly cartoon characters and everything else, quite ridiculous. And it was, of course, completely false. Fake news, of course. That's what I do every year for April Fools. That was the other video. This second video is something else entirely. As I promised at the end of the first one, this is All Secrets of Halloween Horror Nights 28 Revealed for real. For the first time ever, on this day of April 1st, I will now actually give what they're really doing at Universal right now in preparation for Halloween Horror Nights 28. No longer a joke. So get ready, here it comes. Now, as you're probably aware, the lovely people at Universal's Creative and Art and Design departments work year-round on Horror Nights, and of course, just as the event ends last year, the wonderful event that we enjoyed, Halloween Horror Nights 27, when it concluded in early November, they were already working on this year's event, Halloween Horror Nights 28, which will start, of course, on Friday, November 14th, 2018 at Universal Studios Florida again. Yes. And the first thing they started to do was to secure intellectual property rights for haunted houses. Now, they wanted to get it done as quickly as possible. You've seen so many times before, pardon me, when they wanted to get rights and then something went wrong. They thought if they get the rights secured as quickly as possible and a whole bunch of them start getting as many as they can, then they'll be secure and they'll be able to hold the event they want. And they wanted to get the deals through as best as they can. Of course, they've had a lot of practice over the years. And in recent years, they've got really good working relationships with the companies they tend to work with. Especially recently, Warner Brothers, which also controls New Line Cinema, correct? The same company, really. And they've had a really good time with them the past couple of years. They did The Shining last year, The Exorcist before that. They've got a good working relationship with them. Legendary Pictures, of course, they got a relationship with that. And with Blumhouse, they thought they were doing quite well. Let's just go on and see what we can get and get as much as we can. And they succeeded wonderfully. Every property they went after, they got like that. And it was good. And the deals were sound. Oh my goodness, things are going well. And the first property they got, they weren't sure if they could get it, was It. Yes, the movie that came out last year, huge hit. Pennywise, the kids, Stephen King, and of course Stephen King was always a problem. Yes, but after The Shining last year, they convinced King. Okay, so it was clear, and they got It, and It was secured. So that's the first one they got for a haunted house this year. Then they were trying to get Stranger Things, the wonderful television program on Netflix. And the production company isn't owned by a major corporation, but Netflix controls some of it, but they managed to do that. They got Stranger Things. Good. They managed to get both of those. Then, the next idea they had would be Trick or Treat. They just did a Trick or Treat Zone last year, but they want to do a movie, and there's an upcoming sequel. And they're able to get that one as well because Warner's released the first one. Again, they have a good relationship with Warner's. And also, this next one that's coming out will be Legendary Pictures, apparently. And so that helped them. And so they got Trick or Treat without any problem. Then they decided they want, they like to do those old ones from the 80s. And of all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, Michael Aiello's favorite has always been Part 3, Dream Warriors. So they got the rights for that as well from New Line, Warner's. Again, bang. So they're doing quite good. Now, you know they want to do American Horror Story again. They have a contract ongoing with FX. They did the 2 years in a row, and those were the most popular houses 2 years running. They do it again this year using the series that just ended, which is American Horror Story Cult. So bang, they got that one as well. So far, so good. Now they want to get some more properties. Conjuring. They wanted to do the Conjuring for a while now. They had already started building a house for it last year. It ended up being Hive because Conjuring got all tied up in legal issues. There was a lawsuit against Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema about the Conjuring and who actually had the rights to the Warrens' various case files. And that has been cleared up in the courts. It got all cleared up in the courts quite early this year. They were able to get it, and they got the Conjuring as well. Excellent. And Aiello has always wanted to do a Thing house. Now you say, wait a minute, they've done the Thing twice already. Yes, they did the Thing assimilation in 2007, but that was set up as a sequel, what happens after the movie. And of course the Thing in 2011 was based on the movie that was out that year, which is a prequel, what happened before the movie. They've never done a house that was actually based on what happened during the movie. And that's what Aiello wants to do, a Thing house that tells the story of the movie, John Carpenter's The Thing. And of course that was released by Universal. There is still some rights, creative issues. Of course, Carpenter controls some of the rights to the characters and to the ideas, and so they worked it out with him. They got that. So, very good. So they're going 400, but at the same time, they also got the rights to do a couple other properties. Yes, from 20th Century Fox, Alien, the original movie, and the upcoming sequel, or remake, or reboot, whatever you want to call it, Halloween, the Halloween movie that's going to be released by Blumhouse this year. So they got all of these properties so quickly before anyone realized it, because different people were working on it, and all of a sudden they have 9 IPs. Oh my God, we have 9 IPs. What are we going to do? Are we going to do 9 IP houses and no originals? We always do originals in Orlando. Are we going to do a 10th or 11th, 13th house maybe? No, we don't have room for them. We're not sure if we have room for the ones we got, you know, with the parade building and all. And they finally decided, well, this will be a year kind of like Hollywood. All 9 houses would be IPs, and those are the ones they had selected. And they were going full steam ahead. Original content would be, of course, in the scare zones, and so there would still be some original ideas, but mostly it would be IP houses. Wow, that's a change. But that's what they had been working on, and that's what it was going to be. But then shit started hitting the fan. The first problem came from Warner Brothers. Turns out they wanted The Conjuring to be the centerpiece of the entire event. They wanted that to be promoted above all of the other properties, and that all the advertising and commercials and T-shirts and billboards, everything would be focused on The Conjuring to make it The Conjuring at Horror Nights year for 28. That's what they wanted more than anything. They insisted on it. And Universal said, wait a minute, we don't want to focus on that. We like to do themes, maybe have an icon, you know, and if we don't, still, it and Stranger Things, I mean, we can't, those are like really hot. You know, American Horror Story was like a popular house for 2 years, you know, the most popular house for a couple of years. We can't focus only on The Conjuring. The other ones have to be given on an equal level at least. And Warner said, no. It's, you have to do it this way, you don't get The Conjuring. And so Universal said, okay, screw it, we won't do The Conjuring. So strike that off the list. Strike it off the list, we'll do an original house instead. There you go, bang. But Warner said, oh yeah? Well, if you don't do The Conjuring, you're not going to get any of our properties. So they lost Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. They lost It. And they also lost, what else is Warner? Trick or Treat, because they had the original movie and they weren't sure if the next one was coming out yet this year or not. Then bang, 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 bang. Now they lost 4 houses right off the bat. But they thought, okay, that's still all right, even though a lot of those were the houses we really wanted to do, especially It. We still have then 5 IPs, and we'll do 4 originals, I guess. And they started thinking about what they might do, but then something else happened. One by one, more deals began to fall through. It was like an avalanche all of a sudden. I don't know what it was. Maybe Warner Brothers contacted people behind the scenes, whatever it was. I have no idea. But John Carpenter apparently said he wasn't happy with the deal, and he backed out, and they weren't able to do the thing, even though it was a Universal picture. So that was gone. Then Disney, remember those people? I talked about a lot in the other video, which was all joke. But Disney, did purchase Fox. That does happen. And they said, we're not going to use those properties. So they had to lose American Horror Story and Alien. And then, what was left? Well, Netflix pulled out of the deal. And that was terrible. And amazingly, Jason Blum said, well, when you did the Blumhouse last year, Insidious, the movie hadn't come out yet, and you did these houses in Hollywood and Orlando, and you had all kinds of stuff in those houses that weren't in the movie, and it caused all kinds of confusion and complaints and trouble. So I'm not going to let you do the Halloween house based on a script. If you want to do it next year, that's fine, but the movie has to come out first. And then you can make the house based on the final cut and what's actually in the movie. You can't do it now as a trailer, a live-action trailer, because that's never worked very good in the past. And he remembered what they did with things like that Dracula Untold a few years ago and the Wolfman back in 2009. No, you're going to have to do this after the movies come out, not before. Therefore, he pulled rank. And they can't do the Halloween one either. So they went from having 9 IPs, and suddenly they had none. None at all. Now what? Are they going to do 9 original houses? So they sat around scratching their heads, and they said, fuck it. We'll do what we did before. We will overlay this with something else. We've already, we've already designed the houses. We'll keep the house designs, and we'll just purge them. Yes, just like they did with Scream back in 2015, like they did with the Ouija sequence of Blumhouse last year. They put Purge over it. All 9 houses will be the Purge. How can they do the Purge in 9 different houses? Well, here's their idea. We're going to overlay it, but loosely. So you can tell it's not just, okay, I'm going through Hive, and I can sort of, if I've seen the Conjuring movies, I know them really well, I can sort of see how this room was a room from the Conjuring, now it's full of vampires. It's just a little, not even that much. They're going to have all the sets and costumes from the original IPs and just put Purge over it. So you'll have purgers purging in those scenarios very loosely. That way everybody knows what they were supposed to be. It's their way of saying to all those rights holders that screwed them. And so the houses are going to be called Purging It. And Purging It will take place in a little town that really sort of looks like Derry, Maine. And it's set in the 80s. Who knew purging went on back in the 80s? But apparently purgers are in the town purging teenagers in that town, little kids, purging them. And for some reason the purgers are dressed up like a creepy clown. So then you have Purging Things. Purging Things set in another little town in the 80s. Apparently there's quite a bit of purging going on in the 80s. A little town in Indiana like Hawkins or something, and they're purging other children there, and the purgers have dressed up in Ghostbuster outfits and wore Ronald Reagan masks because it's the 80s, right? And there'll even be a sort of purge in a weird monster costume like some sort of purge gorgon, and little purge dogs you know. Yes. And then they have a house called Purge Warriors. Yes. Also happening in the 80s, but this time in a town called Springwood, somewhere in the Midwest, maybe Illinois, who knows where that is, Springwood. And the Purgers, for some reason, will be purging kids wearing red and green striped outfits and doing very weird, surreal things you don't normally see in Purge movies, like, you know, putting a kid's head in a television set and saying, "I've purged you on prime time, bitch." Yeah, odd, but yes, that's a Purge movie, a different Purge storyline apparently. There'll be one called Trick or Purge, which is in another little town of Warren, Ohio, where purging will happen on Halloween. And so you have to check your candy carefully because the purgers might have poisoned it, and they'll be purging you wearing the costumes that you might associate with a little kid wearing a weird pumpkin head and other, you know, fairy tale princess werewolf purge outfits. Who knew? Yes. Then there'll be the Perjuring. And that's not about, you know, lying under oath. And guess what? I'm not under oath now, so I'm not perjuring anything. No, the Perjuring will take place in a creepy house in England. Apparently, the purge has gone overseas, and they'll be purging there, involving a purger dressed like a nun, of all things. Who knew? And they'll be purging. There'll be a house called Frozen Purge. Frozen Purge, yes, takes place somewhere in an Antarctic base with all kinds of very strange things going on. But purging, yes, it's the purge. It's not about aliens. It's about, or maybe the purge goes, and apparently purging does go into outer space because there's going to be a house called In Space No One Can Hear You Purge. Yes, yes, and there'll be purge busters and Yep. And Purge Movies, another Midwestern town, Haddonfield, where purgers wear, Captain Kirk masks for some reason as they purge teenagers there. And then, of course, there was one house they didn't have to change at all. No. One house they kept exactly the way it is. They just called it Purge Cult because, well, it fits so well, they didn't really have to make any changes. So that house is no longer American Horror Story Cult. It's just the Purge Cult, and they really didn't have to change it at all. It's just put Purge on it in the title. So that's what they're doing. All 9 houses are the Purge, but loosely overlaid in such a way that you know what they were supposed to be. In fact, you can almost say they are still what they're supposed to be, but doing it this way to avoid any lawsuits, which they might get anyway. So that's what they're doing. For the scare zones, they decided, let's just purge the scare zones too. So the scare zones, the whole park, will be one big zone, basically. There'll be little bits of it here and there, but it'll all be based on the new film, The First Purge, coming into a cinema near you soon. And that will be in the streets. What about the shows? Well, of course, there's nothing in the Fear Factor Auditorium. They're just going to have Academy of Villains show up to do a lovely show for us, and that show will be right there in the middle of it all, on the main stage, and will also be themed to the Purge. And hopefully the Academy of Villains guys can do a really good Purge theme, high energy dance show with all kinds of special effects and stunts. So it should be quite fun. So that's what it is. No icon, no theme. Just the whole event has been overlaid with the Purge because of the legal problems and how they lost all the IPs. And that's what's going to happen for real. For Halloween Horror Nights 28. Or in other words, yes, this was a second video of fake news. Because after all, Happy Easter, or rather, it is April 1st. So that's it for this year. 2 different videos, but 2 different scenarios, both of which are not going to happen. And hopefully soon we'll find out what's really going to happen. In fact, there may be a house announcement at any minute. And since I actually made this video on Holy Tuesday, several days ago, the 27th of March, when I made these videos, who knows, maybe an announcement might happen between now and Sunday, because we did get an announcement in March last year, and so you may already say, wait a minute, Dr. Jimmy, they already announced this house, and then you'll be able to laugh at me. But hopefully, if that doesn't happen, the real announcements will come sometime before the month of April is over, because you know, they did start announcing early in years past, and we might hear something for real, not this silly video, and find out what is really going on, which I don't know. I swear to God, I don't know. All the IPs I mentioned in this video are the ones that have been highly rumored. I don't know anything about any of them actually showing up. They're just highly rumored. I could have mentioned Poltergeist too. I thought about it, but I had 9 already, so I said, Poltergeist, I'll leave that for some other time. And I don't think that's happening either, but that's also been rumored. There's been a lot of other rumors. Who knows if any of them are true? And I'm sure there will be original houses, of course, but we'll see when they finally start announcing shit sometime in the near future. Therefore, I'm signing off for 2018. I'll be doing other videos. I haven't done videos for a long time, but I hope to catch up and get a whole bunch more going. Maybe before the week is out, I'll do the one on Halloween Horror Nights 25 that I've been leaving off for so many months, mainly because it's going to be about the Walking Dead house that year, and I didn't like that one, and maybe that's why I haven't done a video since last November. But that will be coming up, and it might even get posted before these are posted, which would be funny, since I'll be making it afterwards, since this is actually Tuesday. So there you go, that is this year's, and maybe I'll be able to think of something silly for next year, if any of us are still here, you know. Hopefully Kim Jong-un won't nuke us away and we'll be gone, and there'll still be Horror Nights happening in 2019, and I can make up something silly and do next year's fake news video, this time next year for April. And with all that, I will now bid you ta-ta for now, and hopefully I'll see some of you at Horror Nights 28 for the real event, which will be a lot better than either of the things I've just mentioned. Cheers!